to another episode of Exploring Starcraft 2 lore. This series we're going to be doing something a bit different. We're going to be talking about Starcraft Soldiers, the graphic novel. Yeah, that's why I'm so big, and so that I can, hold the book here. No, the graphic novel, whatever. And also Zegling. Like and subscribe. No. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's make myself a bit smaller. Okay, so I'm going to be breaking this down into several sections. Now, previously, if you're familiar with my channel or some of my work, my ramblings, more likely, you know that I had already... Why is this stupid screen black? There we go. Now, if you follow my channel, I've already done a series of lore videos covering the Nova Covert Ops where I was reading them and going through them. This is not going to be one of those. This is going to be closer to what I did when I read IMEX. It's going to be a breakdown of what's happening in the physical book, as well as some of my thoughts and different opinions on stuff. Alright, so okay, so as per the same format, a bit of a disclaimer, which is that I know you can read this online. There are resources to go and download stuff. I am not going to be going through those. I'm only going to be getting artwork that I can get, either pictures that I physically took myself, Zegling, or links from official places as well as where to buy them. In this case, from Dark Horse, who published a comic. Links to that will be down in the description. And the first section is going to be a spoiler-free. It's just going to be like a general overview of what is this comic, should you read it, what are my general thoughts, without spoiling any of the parts of the story. Then there will be a section where there will be spoilers. I'm going to be talking about all the good, the bad, and the ugly that happens in this book. So, here we go. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the book itself. This was... Okay, it's a bit laggy. Yeah, so this book was published in... By the way, I got this from my local library, so I need to return it in a couple of days. So what do we see here? It's printed in China. It's stated as August 2009. President and publisher is, here we go. Pull up the details that you can read on the Starcraft wiki. Link will be down in the description. It's actually quite interesting because this was actually a series of 4 issues. There is some really cool artwork, including, let's see, including this one, where it was done literally as a comic series, but I've got the compiled hardback. It's a much nicer reading experiences. Again, this is like issue 2, this is the cover of issue 2, this is the cover of issue 1, which also became the hardback. And this is long after, so here's the thing, right? So Legacy of the Void came out in 2016, unless I'm very wrong. Nova Covert Ops not too long after that, so the publication date is here. The whole thing, I mean, if one issue is $3.99, the whole thing should be, what, 4 times 3, about about $16. So if you so choose, I got mine from the library. Okay, enough waffling about publication, let's talk about the story. So what is the story according to the back of the book? Okay, newly graduated Lieutenant Shiva Singh wants to defend the Dominion on the front lines, but it will take more than good grades and confidence to survive on the edge of Zerg space. So these are just the first few pages that I, physically took a picture by Zergling. The basic idea of this story, this happens after Legacy of the Void, this happens, after the story of Starcraft. And it's about keeping the peace. She's basically been sent to a kind of backwater planet. We'll get a little bit more into that about spoilers, and the idea is about just surviving out there. Again, we're still in the spoiler-free section, and the very interesting thing is that I like this story because it's simple. Here's the thing, this is a Starcraft story, and there's Zerg, and there's stuff in there like, obviously, right? I mean, in the artwork there's Zerg, but the real thing I like about this story is that take any setting and this still works. Take Starcraft, take Warcraft. Again, say same thing for Warcraft, right? You're an alliance or a horde soldier that's been sent to an outpost on the frontier, adjacent enemy territory, and you have to survive. And it's a lot about it's less so about, you know, just like the Zerg themselves, and rather what it takes to survive. Because as she goes out there, she needs to try and handle the situation because the frontier troops are not in the capital. The frontier troops are there, and it gets really really interesting when she has to defend the local business interests that don't want that they don't really follow black and white rules. And I like the story because it really shows, you know, a young bright-eyed officer who goes into the field and learns what it means to be an actual effective leader, to learn how to, you know, actually have a base on the frontier. And as a really good analogy I was thinking of, again, like you could get like complete achievements on all of this campaign and yet be completely unprepared for the ladder. Yeah, this is my ladder rank, it's not very impressive. Because you need to be adaptable, you need to be flexible. Like you can have the best build in the world, 2-1-1, adept timing pushers, 13 pools, whatever. But you need to be very reactive, you need to be able to adapt, and there's a lot of, like, I would guess you could say, humanity in this story. Because, not just because it's a Terran story, but because it follows a very tried and true method, and it executes it very well. How do you manage, like, the thing, like that's the thing, you're far away from the capital, you're not getting resources, pay, and like, oh, let's build a terminal, who's gonna pay for it? This thing? No. Oh, let's rebuild the wall. With what? We don't have the resources. And again, I don't want to spoil too much of the story in this section, but it gets really really interesting on how she's able to solve those problems and how that kind of conflicts with her idealism. And if you're paying attention, you can probably guess what I'm alluding to. Alright, the other thing I want to talk about in the spoiler-free section is what I just read, which is the character of, where did I put her? The character of Shivani Singh. Now, I've read some amount of Starcraft material, it's mostly on my YouTube channel here, but this is the first Indian character I've seen in all of Starcraft 2. Like, clearly Indian. Yes, there have been African American, but most of them, let's be honest, if you look at all the portraits, they're mostly Caucasian folks. Like, look, I'm not Caucasian, you do have some other races, but if you go back to Brood War, almost, it's basically rednecks in space. There's even the old SCV had the Confederate banner. Oh, I didn't change the screen. Yeah, so that's her, Shivani Singh. And I was actually asking a few of my friends. I actually reached out to one of my friends and asked her thoughts, and I asked her what are her thoughts on if they introduce a character but the race doesn't matter. Because the thing about Shivani Singh, and this part I don't mind spoiling, which is that you could replace this with any character of any race, ethnicity, gender, non-gender, and it still works because you still need to get, you know, stuff done out on the borderlands. And the way she put it was that while it doesn't make a difference within the story itself, it does have representation, and in her case, she's, and I quote, "I would feel that my race is being represented in the game or in the story, something to feel excited about as compared to an all-white character cast," which, I mean, oops. Okay, Protoss, and yeah, so it's nice to have, you know, some representation. And it was never a thing in the StarCraft universe, you know, what race you were, what any of that. There's never been a story where that has been an issue. There's been problems with class warfare, you know, who has money and who doesn't, but that's not part of it. So I do like this section of it. And I think it's actually representation to an extent done right in this context. There's a case to be made of having representation with their own struggles, like, you know, different ethnic groups have their own cultural issues that they have to deal with, parents bringing them up in a different way, but that's not really the core of the story. And that's just something nice to have early on here. And the final thoughts of my friend is that the diversity itself is the reflection of how the races are in real life. And in certain societies, it'll encourage and show how race integration should be like. There we go. Alright, so okay, so I'm gonna end the spoiler-free section because I do want to like get into this book good and proper. Get into all those nitty-gritty details and the battles. So this is your warning. This is gonna be it. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So let's get straight into the spoiler section. So, again, this book starts a few years after the Great War. Let's zoom a little bit. I should have flipped this, but it's happening on the Sterling Memorial Academy. It's actually quite interesting because the Sterling Academy is named after the one that was in the book I Am Manx, the Sterling Academy where Augustus Manx, the previous emperor, studied at. Apparently he had that rebuilt. Again, and it opens with this graduation ceremony for new cadets that's sing here. This man, by the way, over here, I actually think, I couldn't find any proof, but I actually think that this is a man called Captain Hogarth. And if you've been following my series, he is a major character in the Shadow War series. And I would like to think that, they brought this man in, and if you haven't read Shadow Wars, you should. It's online. It's free. It's not like this, you know. I got this from a library. This man, it is nice to have what I think is a cameo. Then after that, you have the graduation, and she's moving on. You see, this is the thing that tipped me off that this is post Legacy of the Void. Is that I saw the Liberator. It's smaller than I thought. Like this Cyclone looks way too small. Okay, never mind. Okay, this is artwork later. Okay, so here's the real issue of the book. It's not the Zerg. It's not this combat. It's the fact that she decided to take the assignment out in the middle of goddamn nowhere because she wanted to make a difference. And here's the thing. After Legacy of the Void, there was a peace between Emperor Valerian Mengsk of the Dominion, Artanis of the Hierarch Artanis of the Protoss, as well as where are the corp commands? There, as well as Overqueen Zagara. I know it says here Swamp Root Mother, but in the text itself it says Overqueen Zagara. Yep, her, Artie, and well, Valerian's not represented. The corp commanders, but we'll just take Hard and Horner. Anyway, and here's the problem. The story really gets spicy when it gets into the meat of the trouble, which is there are miners on the planet. The planet that she's been sent to patrol the peace, which there's Zerg on the planet. There are active Terrans attempting to mine from it, and that is a gigantic problem because I think there was a picture of it earlier, like okay, these pictures, by the way, credits is the preview under the Dark Horse website. Like you can see in this picture, like, what, you still gonna arrest me? Yeah, which is like this entire firefight happened because they went to arrest this miner guy, and they're very short resources. Like, so she goes out on her first patrol, she gets attacked by the Zerg, and there's a pretty... It's a cool battle, but I question its tactics from a Starcraft 2 perspective. And they're here to arrest this prospector. And this frame tells you everything you need to know, which is that they just lost a man, like they lost their driver, well, it's a lady actually. And now they have a problem because the man that they're about to arrest needs to help drive the vehicle back. That's how the situation is out here. It's like you can't just call a medevac, there's no pilot. And it really blurs the line of what is criminal because these miners are illegally mining, but at the same time, if you evict them, where are they gonna go? And here's the thing, the thing I like about all of this is that she's sent here, the original base commander who's been dealing with this for a long time, puts it out later in the book towards the center, which is that these are the miners that have been giving us supplies. These are the miners that have been supplying neo steel frame to the base. Without these miners, we are in a lot of trouble. Graduation. This is a man called Perkins. He's the original base commander. Now, the thing I like about this, I should mention this earlier, is that a lot of these characters are pretty well written. They're very believable. Like, the commander doesn't want to take action against the miners, not because he doesn't want to, you know, violate the law, because he needs the miners. The base relies on them for supplies. And she's who's like, no, we must follow the letter of the law to the letter, immediately starts clashing with the other soldiers. There is a part in the book later on where, again, like, she's out here and she basically breaks the miner's arm. There's an assassination attempt on her, and there's a bit of a mystery later on, which is that, is it the colonel behind it? Is it the miners? Although the colonel's reaction is worth, you know, reading the book just for it. She actually accuses him and asks him, did you do it? And his response is, let me see if I can find it. Yep, there's a, let me see if I can get the screen. She attempts to just they get blown up. And his reaction is he wouldn't have wasted a perfectly good vehicle. There's another line here which is that this black and white bullshit, that's not how life works. You're avoiding your responsibilities, she says. I'm trying to help you understand yours. You do what you have to do. Because again, it's not that simple out here. And the thing that makes it even worse is that the miners are not entirely in the right either, because they know they're agitating the Zerg by going in and mining for resources. The Zerg are taking notice. And this all culminates in a gigantic and pretty kick-ass battle right at the end. And it's only with the intervention of mercenaries brought on by Singh herself that they turn the tide of the battle and win. And in doing so, she basically, not exactly sells herself out, but she had to cut a deal with the mercenaries to allow them to use their base. It's implied that the mercenaries are also smugglers to try and basically, you know, circumvent the law. And it kind of makes sense. If you look at any culture, the frontier is always where you have the smuggler, the smuggler, the fugitive, but also the man trying to make his way out of the hell. That's what that's what Augustus Meggs did, headed out to the frontier to prospect. And she basically traded integrity for his support. And did it work? Well, spoiler alert, she's still alive at the end of the battle, so that's certainly something. Because that's the thing, the idea, and the thing I really like about this story, I'm skipping over a lot of details, you can go get the book yourself, is that it's really a story about learning how to survive. I've said this before. And the final section of the book is that she's now in command, and there's a new recruit who comes in almost the same way, the same attitude of, I want to uphold the Emperor's glorious agenda, although that's Colonel Singh's words. And at this point, Colonel Singh, the hardened commander, says, walk with me. Let me show you what's really going on around here. And, you know, that's why I like this book. I like the writing, I like the characters. When they die, spoiler alert, like this man, the sergeant, he dies. The Commander Perkins, he dies in the final battle. You actually feels like, oh man, that sucks. And the way that she handles the situation is beautiful, because it turned out the person who tried to kill her was a fellow soldier who then helps partake in the battle and survives. But this gets very, very, very clever. She puts him in charge of liaising with the mercenaries, because, well, if she's caught, the fellow soldier who tried to have her killed, he's gonna take the fall. He's gonna take the blame. In exchange for Sig just not shooting him in the face. So yes, it really shows her flexibility at the end of that. By the way, the mercenaries are called the Bengal Tigers, led by another man called Ravi. So that's an interesting tidbit. Alright, so apart from that, so the other thing I would like to do is talk about like the gameplay wise. Again, the Sterling Barrels Academy. So the two things I have to really critique about this, the things that really bug me. Okay, let's go to the more practical one, which is the first major battle. The skirmish that you saw in the comic earlier. The issue I had with that is that this section, it starts off with a lurker unburrowing, and then 3 Hydralisk attacking the team of Marines. I have absolutely no idea why any Zerg it is. Okay, first of all, this is inaccurate. Like, a lurker per gameplay should not be able to fire a ranged shot while unburrowed. Like, if this was a Hydralisk fight, but this is clearly the lurker. And the battle goes really weird because, first of all, why would you unburrow the lurker? In fact, she later postulates that they unburrowed the lurker to get a surprise attack on them. But why would you bother? The lurker can attack from underground. So to let you see what that would have looked like, if you've already read the comic, let's recreate that in game. Alright, so let's see, arguing with miners. Okay, let's see, we have 4 Marines, a driver, that's it. Okay, so good luck to you guys. Alright, so we have 4 Marines. We have 3 Hydralisk. Oh, I didn't look at that one. Oh well, too bad. And 1 lurker. There he is. Okay, now there's something important, which is that one of the Hydralisks were pretty wounded, so let's try and... Yeah, one of the Hydralisks were wounded. Okay. Order him to hold fire. So basically what happened is that these guys walked over here. I assumed they were out of range of the Hydralisk. This chose to unburrow, and then they re-engaged. And not once during the rest of the battle did the lurker engage. Again, I mean, this is what would have probably happened. Let's try that again. Again, 4 Marines, no combat shield, no upgrades. Let's make it slightly easier for them. Are you on hold fire? Oh no, oh boy. Again, if it wasn't a hold fire, this fight would be over real quick. Okay, but definitely 3 Hydras. They engage, this thing unburrows. Can I save them with micro? No, this is just way too much firepower. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, if they were 3-3, would that have made a difference? They shouldn't be 3-3 because they're in the middle of freaking nowhere. What I would have preferred a lot... Okay, let me run this one more time and tell you what I would have preferred. Okay, wait, no, this is not right. This Hydra needs to be a lot more wounded. But not dead. Okay, 7 HP. Let's make it as easy as possible. These guys are on full upgrades. Okay, they're here. This guy unburrows. They attack it. Okay, attack, micro. Okay, fine. It would have taken 3 Marines. Oh, hey, counterfeit pennies. Yeah, by the way, for those watching on YouTube, I do this live on Twitch. This one was pretty short notice because I read this. I was like, man, this is a great comic. I read it twice more and said, you know what, let me make a story about it. Anyway, let's see, counterfeit penny says and not free to contribute, but what I really appreciate with Soldiers, it wasn't good guys and bad guys, it was more about idealists and realists. Yeah, I completely agree. The thing about this comic is that there are no good guys and bad guys. Maybe the worst you get is the Zerg Queen controlling the Brood, but again, you know, Zergling. What? Got a problem with the Queen? But it's really like the three big characters, which is the Colonel controlling the base, the miners themselves, and the Lieutenant, Lieutenant Singh, is that the miner just wants to make money, but the miner wants to make money, but he's also, you know, passing it on to the base. The commander wants to make sure that his base gets supplies, but Singh is trying to, you know, evict them from the planet as per the Emperor's orders. But if you get rid of your SCVs, I don't know how you're gonna win. Anyway. Yeah, that was basically 2-2. I don't think there's any way 1-1 Marines would have been able to beat those guys. What I think would have been a lot more realistic in this simulation is that if you have 4 Marines and 1 Roach. No, Adreno Glands, where is it? There we go. And then you have like 2 Hydras. Okay, because in that case you can actually have the Roach sneak up on them and then pull the Hydras to fight. Oh, this is a much better victory. So that's one issue I take. I'll get to your point, Count. There's the final battle that happens much later on. Hold on, let me switch my screen. Yeah, like 3 Marines took on 4 Marines took on 3 Hydralists and a Lurker, and they only had 1 casualty? Were these Lurkers like 1 HP each? The other issue I have with the combat is that the battle right on is pretty unrealistic because, okay, there's a really awesome scene, I'll see if I can pull it up, of the big battle, and it's a 3-3 army. Here we go, I get a full screen. Alright, Counterfeit Penny, thanks for coming on. Let me respond to your point right now, which is, yeah, something important to note is that even when they were evacuating the refugees, the mercenaries couldn't guarantee that they would have been rescued. Like, one of the refugees said, they're gonna sell us into slavery? And the mercenary said, probably not, but he doesn't even admit it outright. As for the Dark Horse comics, yeah, I really do hope that they do more. They're doing series with Overwatch, so hopefully that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing that happens in the future. Hold on, probably my chat. Yeah. So, you know, stuff I really like. Anyway, the other issue I have, coming back to the combat, is that you have this insane army, this insane like this insane battle like at the edge of the book, and it's 2 ultras, 4 mutalisks, brute lords come in later, and I have no idea how you're supposed to like win this. At least a Zerg replica to go in my battle cruiser and carrier would be neat. Hi. I just want my Marine. You know, I really got the Zergling. The only one that's not out is the Marine. Yeah. Hopefully they do, but yeah, this battle to me is like, I don't, you know, I understand you want to make it, you know, cool and epic, but really Ultralist losing to tanks, Ultra, Lurker, Muta, Brute Lord, no battle cruiser, no ghost, no nothing. There was some air support, yes, from transports that are not in the game, the huge like tube-like things, but that was just like Anyway, okay, so that's the first gripe. The second gripe is a bit more, it's a bit more nuanced, because the second gripe I have is the timeline, and that's something that's really weird, because the first story happens a few years after the it happens like a few years after the end of the war. Okay, fine, the peace is still holding, it's still the first few years, you know, Starcraft evolutions. But the final area, that really, I think the writer just maybe didn't know. The writer says that when the new officer comes in, it's 8 years later. And I'm like, what? You were here for 8 years, keeping the peace against the Zerg. For 8 years. The End War lasted, like the actual StarCraft 2 campaign lasted about 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very short amount of time. Like Brood War itself takes place in less than 2 years. The entire story, because it's battle after battle, it's conflict after conflict. It's really, really fast. And you're telling me that for 8 years absolutely nothing happened. And that's the thing I sort of take issue with. You can make some excuses because let's be honest, Legacy of the Void came out in 2016 and it's 6 years now and we haven't gotten too much more things. If it had been something like 8 months later or 2 years later, that would have been believable. But the last part, about 8 years, it just doesn't mesh with the StarCraft timeline in that sense. But that's about it. Those are my main gripes. Otherwise than that, for StarCraft Soldiers, it's a good comic. It's a short comic. You can read it in like 15 minutes. If you want to get it, you can get it. I saw it here on the Dark Horse website who published it. Hopefully, if you support them, they might, you know, collaborate with Blizzard to do other titles. You know, you do have like some sick artwork, like you have these miners and then, you know, surveying the ground, and then you have these guys. Yeah, the Zegling's probably pretty happy to see us brethren. Yep. Alright, anyway. With that, I'm effectively done. I've said my piece on this comic. Do stick around the channel, do like and subscribe. Not just for the Zergling, but because we have a lot of cool lore stuff planned. But if you're watching in the future, maybe that's already out. I plan to do a... Oh, by the way, the videos for Nature of the Beast will be should be out relatively soon. So like and subscribe, follow, if not for me. For the Zergling, Alright.